I received a letter back from the Internal Revenue Service. Bill, would you read this letter?
Dear taxpayer, based on the information you have provided, the account specified above is resolved. We may contact you in the future if further issues arise requiring clarification. At present, no further response is needed on the above account. Is that on this?
Yes.
Wow. Can I have a copy of that?
Isn't that exciting? All right. Now, Dave, I'm going to have you read another letter. Would you read the body of this letter?
Dear Sorel Lichtensteiger, based on the information you have provided, the account specified above is resolved. We may contact you in the future if further issues arise requiring clarification. At present, no further response is needed on the above account.
You see, there are so many people who are catching on to what is happening to the IRS that they've got a form letter that they send out to those people that they're willing to say, ah, you caught us, doggone. All right, we're going to forgive you because we don't want to mess with anything like that. However, there are those people who have gotten in trouble with the IRS, and in fact they've had to fight, and it costs them some money to fight in court. But there are those people who have gone all the way to the Supreme Court. Bill, would you give us the date of this article? By the way, this article was published in the Orange County Register. The date is right up here.
Thank you so much. January 9, 1991.
January 9th, 1991, just recently. And would you read the headlines of this article?
High Court rules sincerity bars conviction in tax evasion case.
Okay. Now, Bill, would you please read the very first paragraph and listen carefully.
The Supreme Court ruled Tuesday that taxpayers who sincerely believe the federal income tax laws do not apply to them cannot be convicted of criminal tax violations, even if there is no rational basis for their belief.
Now, how's that? The Supreme Court ruled that a person cannot be convicted of tax violations or criminal tax violations as long as they thoroughly believed that the tax laws do not apply to them. Ladies and gentlemen, who do the tax laws apply to?
Federal employees.
Federal employees. Do you firmly believe that?
Yeah.
If you believe it, say amen.
Amen.
See what we're talking about? All right. Now, why would a person believe that the Internal Revenue Service does not apply to them? Who does it apply to? Federal employees. And we're beginning to understand that as we begin to understand the tax laws. Would you read the second paragraph that I have marked there?
While there has been confusion in lower federal courts over how to handle prosecutions in which taxpayers say they believe the tax laws do not apply to them, most courts already appear to be applying the approach the court took Tuesday.
So even the lower courts are beginning to realize, or either they're beginning to realize or we're getting smarter so that we can beat them in the lower courts. And what we're beginning to point out is that the tax laws, that we understand them, do not apply to us if we are not federal employees. Now we ask the question, how did you volunteer into this system?
1044.
By filling out a 1040 form. And remember when you signed your name on the 1040 form, it says, under penalty of perjury, I agree that everything on this form is absolutely true. And by the way, I owe you $5,752. Do you know that just as soon as you sign that 1040 form, you now owed them $5,752. Even if you didn't send in a check, you have now given them the authority to collect that money. However, it is important to understand that there isn't a law on the books that says you have to fill out a 1040 form. And we have here, can you give me the date of this newspaper article?
The date?
Yes, please give me the date.
July 29th, 1991.
Is that recent enough?
Yes.
Okay. Would you read the paragraph that we have marked?
In a stunning victory for the tax protest movement, a Memphis, Tennessee federal jury on July 9th acquitted 17 people of charges of conspiracy to evade payment of taxes and failure to file federal income tax returns.
Okay, and this continues on the backside, and it talks about how important it is to recognize or to realize who these laws apply to. However, what I'd like you to read is this final statement right here, that one of the people who were charged with willful failure to file. And what is his statement?
Quote, when they show me the statute that requires me to pay income taxes, I will pay them. Unquote.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, show me the statute that requires you to fill out a 1040 form or that requires you to pay taxes. And I will say to you, as soon as you show me that, then I will continue, or I will pay federal income taxes. All right? Now, about this time, there are those people who say, well, Al, I am Christian, and I believe in rendering unto Caesar that which is Caesar's. Well, I'm Christian also. And I believe in rendering unto Caesar that which is Caesar's. But I don't believe in rendering unto Fred that which is Caesar's. And it's important that you understand where our position is. Now, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to present to you some of the ways that the IRS is involved with down-and-out fraud. The reason I'm going to present this to you is because as soon as you can catch an entity involved with fraud, at that moment, whatever contract you have signed with them is null and void. And this is what we're going to do. We're going to give you the ammunition so that you can, in fact, become a non-taxpayer. Now, immediately, the idea of becoming a non-taxpayer sounds almost criminal, doesn't it?
No.
Becoming a non-taxpayer? No. Okay. The question we ask is, if you become a non-taxpayer, can you become a non-taxpayer legitimately, legally, ethically, morally, and patriotically, and permanently, and not have to worry about the IRS looking over your shoulder, or looking over your shoulder to see if the IRS is coming? I have here the best kept secret, taxpayer versus non-taxpayer. And Dave, would you read the part that we have underlined there?
The revenue laws are a code or system and regulation of tax assessment and collection. They relate to taxpayers and not to non-taxpayers. The latter are without their scope. No procedure is prescribed for non-taxpayers, and no attempt is made to annul any of their rights and remedies in due course of law. With them, Congress does not assume to deal, and they are neither of the subject nor of the object of the revenue laws.
Okay. This is a judge making a final statement in establishing the fact that there are taxpayers and there are non-taxpayers. And I guess one of the best things we can do is present to you the idea. Where is my Title 26? Let's put this in its proper place, its proper position. What we're going to do is we're going to play the game of tax player. Or better yet, since all of you know how to play the game of Monopoly, I'm going to ask you, if you're going to play the game of Monopoly, what's the first thing you have to do? What's that?
Say you're going to play.
Say you're going to play. Agree that you're going to play. What else? What's the next thing you have to do? Know the rules. You have to read the rules before you can do anything else. The reason you're going to read the rules is because every Monopoly player has to play by the same rules. Isn't that right?
Yes.
And in other words, you have to buy your property by the same rules, you sell your property by the same rules, you roll the dice by the same rules, and so on. Okay? In other words, you've got to have something that tells you the rules. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the rules of a taxpayer. And that's all it is. In other words, this is prima facie law, or the law that will exist unless you challenge it. Or if you want to volunteer in, you have the right to volunteer in. That's your freedom. But just as you can volunteer in, is it possible to volunteer out?